Welcome back to Cracking On With The Sun. I am today joined by Faye because I'm just so confused and I just can't decide on a podcast host. So I'm just trying options out, seeing who I have history with and like just trying to work it out,
You're not very loyal, are you?
I'm not loyal, babe, no.
Poor Flick.
Poor Flick, gone but not forgotten. She will be back later in the week, but thank you for stepping in.
Pleasure.
What did you think of last night's show?
It was another brilliant one, wasn't it?
Loved it.
So much drama still, so many lies still unravelling and so many more secrets coming out.
For sure.
And people just showing their true colours left, right and centre.
I know.
And not good true colours.
No, absolutely not. So we saw the fallout from the PDA Awards, and it was just a lot of tension in the air between everyone, really. And I just love how Chris is just like always saying the kind of awkward thing, isn't he? It's just the way that he reacts to everything makes me laugh. Chris is just the best.
Do you think so?
Yeah, he just makes me laugh.
I've really actually gone off him this series. I just think he just says inappropriate things, I think, personally.
But aren't they the funniest when you say something inappropriate and it's really awkward?
Sometimes, but last night I feel like the tension was so high and everyone was so upset that it just wasn't sometimes the right time to make inappropriate jokes.
Yeah, but that's kind of like those kind of people they're trying to sort of deflect away from everything, aren't they? And they end up just saying something and putting their foot in it, which is amusing to watch, but I wouldn't like to actually be in there. So we've also seen Bombshells come in. We're going to talk a little bit more about them later. And I think the main takeaway from everything, and she's kind of stealing the series, and that is Georgia Steele, because everything sort of seems to be about her, even when I think it's like kind of nothing related. She seems to get in the middle of it. But she's getting a lot of hate on the outside.
I think the thing is with her is, the show is to move around, try different partners, see who you connect with the most. And that's absolutely fine. But the issue with her is that she wasn't honest about it. She didn't tell people where they stood. And even last night, she didn't once say, I'm sorry. Every single time, to every single person she was talking to, she was bringing it back on, oh, poor me, but I'm so confused, I'm so this, not I'm sorry. And it seems they've all swallowed this, like, dictionary of language to talk about when they're talking about their feelings, like saying, I validate the way you're feeling, I validate this, I validate that. But it's all very well validating how someone feels, but you actually sometimes just want to hear someone saying, I'm sorry, don't you?
Yeah, I know, absolutely. And it just like seems that she's in her own little world, and she doesn't really understand. Is that her age?
Because when she first came in, everyone was like, "Oh my goodness,
she's grown
the glow up." She looked, she's got her fringe with her natural, lovely long hair, and
which she's very grateful for.
Yeah, well, I would be too. It's lovely, but also she seemed more mature. She wasn't the same gobby little girl who was in the first, when we first saw her. But as the days have gone on, it's kind of like unravelled. And I think, probably partly the fact that she's been the centre of attention has kind of gone to her head a bit. Which I guess would happen.
It is the Georgia Steele show for sure. But don't you think it opens up a little bit more of a wider discussion about how men and women in Love Island are treated differently? From fans, from, even the people in there. I just think the guys get away with so much more than the girls. You think about Georgia, she's 25, she's single, she's gone in there, she's got this history with a few of the guys. She's trying to just work out her own feelings. If that was one of the other guys who was doing that, there just would not be this backlash. There is still a stigma against it being women who are having that kind of openness and getting to know multiple people at the same time. And I just think we don't treat the women very well in these situations.
I do agree, actually, because Toby, obviously, he's had history with Arabella and Georgia, which he has spoken about in the same way Georgia's spoken about it. But the backlash hasn't been so big online. But I do think part of it is because Georgia, the whole thing with Callum, I think people have really taken Callum under their wings and they really like him and they feel like they don't want to see him hurt. Whereas I think with Toby, he hasn't, well, obviously he hurt Arabella, but I think people see Arabella as a strong woman and she can deal with it. I don't know. I think you're right, though. There is like a difference between the way men and women are treated.
Absolutely. And the hate that as she's been getting online has got so bad that her family have actually released a statement on her Instagram basically saying, you know, it's just she will be devastated when she comes out and sees the messages that they've received. And it's also just not very nice for them to have to be, you know, looking after their social media. Do you remember last series? It was all they were all banned from using social media to protect them, and that's not happened this time around. So they're all using the platform. They've got maybe their I don't know if their mum's doing it or their best friends doing it, taking control of their pages. I don't know. I think it is opening up that.
But I think people still would be sending hate to her, but maybe it wouldn't be seen as much. I do feel really sorry for her mum, because I saw her mum's just like reposting loads of positive messages she's received. Because imagine as a mum seeing that about your daughter. But then I just don't think the public are very forgiving at all. And they, you know, they can be really vile on social media. Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately.
Love Island gave us a statement, actually, kind of in response to what George's family had said. They said, we would always urge our viewers to be kind when engaging in social media conversations about our islanders, and to remember that they are real people with feelings. And that's what you're kind of saying, that people forget that. We kind of get so involved in the drama, and we have an opinion, and we sit here and talk about the islanders. But there's this kind of crazy part of the world where they'll send these, you know, sometimes death threats. And you just think, what kind of people are doing that, putting that kind of view out there? I love going on and actually seeing how many supportive messages that the islanders get as well, though. It's important to remember that they've got so many fans, and they actually end up arguing with the trolls, you know, and like defending them and stuff. And I think that we've got to remember there's more nice people in the world than not.
I do think going forward, though, Love Island might have to look at it again and what ways they can protect the people going on the show. Because I think whatever happens now, Georgia will come out and she will get upset by what she's seeing.
For sure, yeah.
But I do also
But how do you control that, really?
Yeah, it's very
I
hard.
guess, like, last series, we weren't as aware of it because they weren't posting.
Yeah.
But it's weird. I didn't agree with that at the time. But then now, because of all this happening, actually I think it was probably the right thing to do.
Part of me, though, does think, has Georgia forgotten she's being filmed some of the time, though? Because some of the stuff she does, I think you must be aware that this is going to hurt someone's feelings. And you have to be held accountable for your behaviour, I think. Obviously, I'm not saying she deserves to get trolled or she, like, deserves vile messages. But, you know, I think the public are entitled to say, that's not very nice. You shouldn't be treating someone like that.
Yeah. I was talking to Lucy on the podcast yesterday about Georgia's arguing skills, which again, top notch last night, because the way that she can just kind of wriggle out of an argument, you know, she can defend herself to the hill. I mean, that's a skill, I think. I come up with something 2 days later that I'm like, oh, I really wish I'd said that. She has all of these amazing sort of the way that she can turn it round onto them is like, yeah, it's impressive. I could never do that.
I think that's what people call gaslighting.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it's not that great. She can just twist it like there's literally in front of your eyes, and I end up going, oh God, is she right? You know, is that how it actually was? Because she's so convincing in her argument.
But at the end, you're like, oh, poor Georgia. Actually, it must be so hard having all the boys fancying her.
Yes, and that gorgeous natural brown hair.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have also seen a bit of a fallout between Sophie and Josh and this Joanna kind of love triangle. We saw at the end of the episode Sophie getting the hump again because of him. This conversation that she didn't know about. He basically changed his mind 3 times in the episode. I really warmed to Sophie because I was complaining about her voice, and I'm still like, it's a little bit like, you know, like scratching on a chalkboard. That's how I feel with it when she gets into her kind of real moany voice. But actually, her personality is brilliant. She's really funny. She's just up for a laugh. She doesn't take herself seriously. She's not like some of the other girls. It's just everything's like really perfect. They hold themselves in certain ways. She's just sort of being in there herself, and I rate
she's
that.
Got really good values. She's like, I'm not standing, like, I'm not going to have that.
Totally.
As soon, you know, when Josh last night was saying to her, basically saying, you don't have a right to be upset, she was like, well, I do actually. Don't you turn this around onto me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the other girls in there don't necessarily do that, but she's obviously knows her worth, and she's like, I'm not having that. But I just don't know last night why Joanna decided to tell her that information. It just felt like really unnecessary and stirring the pot. And also, why does she always whisper? It's really weird. It's like, we can hear you. You're still being recorded.
Is she doing it because there's other people around them at the time?
I don't know.
You're so right, though. I hadn't actually thought about that, but she does whisper a lot. That's her trademark.
Yeah, she's like, he said that he still wanted to get to know me. This is like ASMR now, isn't it?
Yeah.
We could do the whole podcast like Joanna.
I like the way that they was able to sort of pull themselves onto the terrace together, you know.
I thought they were going to kiss then.
Yeah, I did as well. It was a bit of a complete waste of time from Josh's part. Like, he kind of got himself into trouble for nothing. I don't really understand how he managed to change his mind in that short period of time. I mean, you either fancy Joanna or you don't.
She was egging him on, and also if she had kissed him, then he would have kissed her back.
Oh, 100%.
So it's like...
And I now feel a little bit protective towards Sophie, because I've gone from, like, not really being that fussed about her to... I don't know, she just seems like such a sweet girl, and she's going out with this bad boy. He's going to hurt her.
100%. I don't like saying this, but she's a lot better than him. Like, he is punching there.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a bit...
I think he's just got this naughty streak, and it's just within him, and is she really going to realistically on the outside be able to trust him?
Can you imagine him going round to Rochelle's house with Marvin sitting down for a family Sunday lunch?
Sam Thompson's obviously there.
Yeah, could you imagine it? No, exactly.
No, I can't, yeah.
She needs to get rid. Maybe Joe Garrett.
Yes. So perfect thing to lead on to as the bombshells coming in. Joe Garrett walks in, an amazing entrance because he had the twins either side of him, Jess and Eve Gale. Yeah, they honestly do, don't they? Yeah. I mean, they had like a proper glow up as well. I mean, they were gorgeous the first time round, but they looked quite different. I loved that entrance, and I loved that it's kind of a bit more unexpected, I guess, about who they were. But do you think the twins will bring anything to the villa?
No.
Okay, moving on.
They look great, but I remember last time they really struggled for a long time to connect with anyone, because at the end of the day their bond is so much bigger together than it is. And I do remember last time it was like a real, like, it took them ages, didn't it, to like find any connection, and I just can't picture who they would be with.
I think they've got the looks for sure, but their personalities aren't, I don't think they're the strongest. And I do feel this time around again they'll have their moment in the spotlight because they're bombshells, and you know the games are sort of all sort of turned towards them to make them the centre of attention. But I think their personalities sort of make them just background characters.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's too mean to say, but I feel as if they are those kind of, they're gorgeous to look at and they're around, but they're just not a main character energy.
Yeah, we need someone like, obviously Ekin-Su wouldn't do it, but that sort of character who's going to go in there and be like, I'm going to take your man.
Yes.
Whereas I just don't
they're
think
not going to do that. No, they're not going to do that. Speaking of Ekin-Su, obviously, you know, newly single, Davide today pictured at the airport, making quite a big fuss of the fact that he was at the airport, which has become, we have spoken about it on this podcast previously, about all of these celebrities jetting off here, there and everywhere and just trying to tease that they're going into the villa.
Just desperate to hang on to the coattails of it.
Totally. So he's like wandering around with all of the, I mean, he had so much luggage with him. He's like posting pictures of the plane, and I just thought, are you trying to tell us that you're going on there? But if you are actually genuinely going on, surely you are contracted to keep it a secret so you wouldn't be posting about it.
Yeah, everyone else who's actually gone on it have not posted a picture of them on a plane. Like, everyone who's desperate to, like, be part of this series have been like, yeah, I'm on a plane, here's a picture of my ticket to South Africa, but they're actually not going there. So, I don't think he would do it. I think it's, even for Davide, that's too soon, I think.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I think he would do it. And Flick's got this theory about, you know, Ekin-Su's kind of too big for the show. She is the one that you want out of the pair of them, but she's kind of overtaken it. Whereas he's kind of classic, like, you know, holding on.
Yeah, he would love to do it probably if he got offered it. You never know, maybe. How long have we got left of the show? It's a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
You never know. He could end up turning around and being like, actually, I will do it.
I think so. No, I think he'll be desperate to do it. I think this is him saying to Love Islanders, look, I can get on a plane.
I did see he did
there.
That post the other day as well, which was like about how he was going to do stuff for himself and not be held back and stuff. So maybe, yeah.
So who do we think the Bombshells are going to crack on with?
Well, I did see in the teaser that Joe kisses Molly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that causes a bit of an
yeah,
argument.
What that bit, it looks so good. Like, I actually can't wait. Why does Georgia say, if you haven't seen it yet, she goes, what does she say? She says, oh, is that the first time you kissed then? Suggesting that they've...
Again, a classic Georgia Steele moment of not being involved in that situation at all and yet being at the centre of the drama.
I wonder if that is Joe's the person that Molly slept with, because, you know, she says she slept with one person. That would be really dramatic. So, yeah, I think Joe's going to go for her, but then he won't probably be able to split her up from Tom. So then maybe after that he would go for Georgia Harrison.
Yes. You would think that they would have met each other on the scene and kind of been each other's types. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Tom. I just think he's absolutely gorgeous. But Joe has such an infectious personality that I don't think Tom has. And I think Joe could really charm you. And so whether Molly, if there is a little bit of this history there, then they can... I do think that Joe's got quite a good shot against Tom.
But isn't Joe much younger than Tom? How old's Joe? I feel like they're all quite young.
They're all quite young,
and Molly's like a mature, like not mature a lady, but like, you know, she's looking for something a bit more serious.
Yeah,
so
I think
surprised.
Joe's older than Tom. I'm sure of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we need to do some Googling, but I'm absolutely sure that he is.
But with the twins, I actually just don't know who they're going to go for. I imagine maybe Toby. One of them might fancy Toby. Oh, actually, I did see in one of them said they fancied Tom. So maybe they'll try and break up. So maybe this could be the end of Tom and Molly.
But Tom and Molly are the kind of the strongest couple in that. I know they've had this, you know, this whole Georgia thing, but they really have been the sort of closest.
But they
because
kind of
there's
came
no
out
one
of
close.
nowhere though. Like they've known each other for like a week or something. And they're acting like they're closed off. Yeah. But actually, the strongest at the moment's got to be Anton and Georgia H, hasn't it?
Oh, I don't believe it.
I can't buy it either, and as much as I want to for Anton, I just don't think...
He was very quiet in last night's episode. I really missed him and Georgia, actually.
He made a few, he made that one comment about Toby, something about how Toby's head's going to get turned straight away, which I thought was funny, because it's true.
Anton sees through it all.
Yeah, he does. He's wiser than everyone.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia Steele, for her to she described Callum as this cup of tea, and I think that is a perfect way of kind of... We look at the villa as Anton being this ticked box. Everyone says it, you know. Mitch, we were talking to him on the podcast yesterday, and he even said Anton has got everything. You know, he takes every single box, and yet we don't fancy him. It's like he's the good guy, and you always go for the bad boy. And you're kind of seeing that with Georgia Steele. She's being drawn to like bad boy Toby over nice guy Callum, and I just look and I think Toby has already in that villa screwed you over. As soon as you get on the outside, it's just why is she doing it? Whereas I think Callum would have been this really safe bet. I think they would have sailed along to the final. And
it didn't work the first time with Toby, so why is it going to work now? They literally got together on the other Love Island on the games, and then it ended. Why would Toby suddenly change his attitude now?
And could he be swayed by one of the twins?
Oh yeah, of course.
So I've got some tea about tonight's show. So we've seen on the teaser that there's this game that's getting played. So it's all centred around the Bombshells. The Islanders play a game of Dares. So Jess is asked to snog the Islanders you find most attractive. She kisses Toby and Casey. And then Casey also gets involved, and I thought who he chooses was a real surprise. Would you like to know?
Yes, who does he choose?
Joanna and Eve.
Joanna?
And it's who he wants to have a threesome with.
Oh my
so he goes for Joanna and Eve, which I think is like totally out there. But he did have that conversation with Kaz about fancying other people when they friend zoned each other about 2 minutes after coupling up.
Oh yeah, he did.
And he did mention Joanna.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, when you're Bombshells, you can't pick each other. You need to pick obviously someone who's already in the villa. So he had to get into the villa, secure his place with Kaz, and now he's obviously cracking on. Can you tell the difference between Jess
I was just
and Eve?
going to say to you, how do they know? Why would he want to have a threesome with Eve and not Jess?
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Why not go for
Surely
both
we
of them?
chose the twins. And there's more kisses for Josh kissing Sophie, and then he takes a real swipe at Georgia S, accusing her of being only here for the followers, and kisses her as well.
She's not going to take that well, is
That
she?
then sparks an argument, surprisingly, between Georgia, Toby and Josh. So it all kicks off between the three of them. I think Toby is kind of constantly having to defend Georgia as well now, and he feels like he has to step in and sort of have these, pull everyone up on these conversations. It's just brewing in there of just a lot of tension. And I thought it was really interesting what Mitch was telling us yesterday of just this real lack of bro code that's in the villa, and it made him feel really unsettled. He didn't know who to trust. He couldn't confide in people because it was always going to get back. And that's just what you're seeing day in, day out.
But that's what makes such good TV.
Oh, 100%.
You don't want bro and girl code.
For sure. We don't want it. We ban it, actually.
Josh just doesn't care, does he? Like, I love that. But you know what I keep going back to in my head? That moment when they were playing Snog, Marry, Pie, and Georgia was doing something annoying, and Toby just shouts across at her saying, "Oh, your voice is so grating. Shut up, Georgia." And I keep thinking that back in my head because he obviously actually finds her really annoying. So, because it just came out of nowhere as well. So I'm thinking, why is he coupled up with her?
I can always reference everything in life back to Friends TV series.
Yes.
I see it as like a Chandler Janice situation.
Yeah.
And it's like he found her so irritating, but he kept going back. And I think that's what the Toby George situation. She's kind of amusing and like fun to be with, but also so annoying. And he just can't kind of break that. He needs to find his moniker, and I don't think that Georgia still is his moniker.
But also, I think he probably likes the fact that George is like so in demand, and he wants to be the one with the prettiest girl that everyone fancies.
Totally, yeah.
So he wants to be like top dog, really.
Yeah.
It's not really like an alpha male, this series. But I think now, because Joe's come in, that gang of Tom, Casey and Joe, they're going to be quite prominent.
They're best friends on the outside. But then surely, there's going to be tension between that Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
Will Young having been replaced in the Three Musketeers group by Joe. Because if Joe's gone in there and he's gone after Molly straight away by kissing her, so that's going to ruffle feathers with Tom, surely.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like they might have discussed it all before, because Tom also said to Casey, "I'll crack on with Molly as well." Do you remember? So maybe they've all like had an agreement, like, because they must have all known they were doing it. Like, especially
Of course,
Casey.
yeah.
He lived with Casey. What's he gonna say? "I'm just going on holiday without you, mate."
Yeah.
Like,
they all know for sure. But it just feels awkward that they're sharing their girls. I mean, I don't know why we think that that's okay to do. It's just really awkward.
Yeah.
But you've got an exclusive for us, haven't you?
Yes. So there is going to be another shock coming up for everyone in the villa. There's going to be a surprise recoupling, and the person who is left single will be sent packing, and they've already gone. They're out of there.
God,
and
it's so brutal, isn't it?
It's going to be quite a shock, a lot of tears. It's someone who's a huge part of the villa. So I think things are going to really change, dynamics will change, and people will start having to fend for themselves a bit, I think.
That's really interesting. But so just one person?
Yeah, so everyone will recouple and the person left single will go. But I think it's quite an early, we've just had 3 new bombshells. So who's going to recouple with who?
Yeah, and they'll get their first dibs, so they all stay in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot more drama, which I didn't think was possible after this week. But yeah, it's all going to kick off again.
We know that there's still sort of more bombshells to come, right? We've got 2 weeks still, just less than that, and I do feel like we're kind of always on the edge of our seats of like who's going to be in. Is that then going to mean that someone's going to break up as a couple? Because we don't have that strong unit that we normally see in Love Island, where in week 1 they're together and they sail all the way through to the final. Everyone's kind of under threat.
Yeah, everyone's chopped and changed a lot. There's not been one really strong couple. And I think if it comes down to public vote, Georgia and Toby are not going to be kept in.
Yeah.
So their time, you know, is going to be quite limited, I think, really, once it starts,
Yeah.
if they stay
But
together.
then I think that's the kind of interesting part about Love Island and the production side of it, because we've seen them change the format depending on, you know, who they want to keep in. Obviously Love Island would say, and we have to legally say this or we'll get told off, but, you know, they don't they don't fix it. But it is an entertainment show production where they perhaps manipulate it slightly. So if they ended up where Georgia Steele and Toby were the least popular, would they try and make it so that there's another couple that the other islanders are more likely to vote out? Because we've said it time and time again, it's the Georgia S show.
Yeah, they won't want to lose her.
They won't want to lose her. She's the biggest character in there. She's created the most drama. We still don't know what's going to happen. 2 weeks is a long time for Toby to stay loyal. And I just don't see that happening. I don't see them even making the final as together. They might do as separate people, but I don't see it as
Georgia might have her redemption arc now, though. Something might, you know, there might be a change and she'll suddenly become the fan favourite again.
Yeah. And I don't know whether this is true, but we've kind of heard in the past that when there's things kicking off on the outside, that maybe producers do have a little bit of a word to, you know, to sort of influence slightly. Do you think it would be wise for them to say, look, Georgia, on the outside you're not getting a great reaction at the moment, and maybe that will help her be a bit more decisive about who she's choosing, how she's treating these boys, and be a bit more on the straight and narrow from now on?
I don't know. Obviously they've got the duty of care towards her. They're going to have to say something, but actually she hasn't been that upset by the situation.
No.
She hasn't really cried.
She's held her own completely about it. She's not the one who's kind of upset by it all in there.
Yeah, so I wonder if she actually cares.
Yeah.
And would they feel like, I mean, if she was devastated and crying every night and, you know, heartbroken, I'm sure they would step in and say, maybe you need to think about your actions. But the fact that she actually just is kind of almost like reveling in it.
Yeah.
Really, and has been doing like her crocodile tears.
Yeah.
She's been really straining to get the tears out, hasn't she? Like,
but where's those onions that we can just have
so
around?
I think they'll leave her and leave her to it and see what happens. But they'll have to warn her when before she gets out.
Yes,
that things
because
could
it's been a lot.
Yeah, but do you know
she
what?
must expect it when you're behaving, when you are moving mad like that, as they say in there. That then you're going to expect you're going to upset people.
I think she's very clever though, and I think she'll turn it around and get everyone back on side. She's not stupid. She's done it before. They've all done it before.
Do you agree with Josh then in that game that, you know, she's the one who's, you know, a bit of a clout chaser? She wants the followers out of everyone.
She's already got like 1 million followers, hasn't she? So, you know,
she wants to be maybe the most popular from this, because we spoke about this before the show started, talking about who was going in, and we said it is a dodgy situation to put yourself into All Stars, because one, you've already been in and you could have been incredible in there, and then the second time round you ruin yourself and everyone turns on you. And also, you're sort of going in there, it's a new competition. You want to be like the best of the best. Like, you want to be the best known all-star.
Yeah.
Because now they come out, you know what it's like. In this job, we sort of see that you've got so many people. There's so many islanders. There's only a few that make it to, they're the most popular ones, the ones that are always in the newspapers, on TV. How do they sort of look at that situation and think, I want to rank really high? They've got to stand out in some way, like Georgia, and it's pushing that, you know, to make sure that she's going to be the top all-star when she comes out.
And she'll want to get like the biggest brand deal when she comes out.
Yep.
Which I'm sure she will do, because she's just on her name's on everyone's lips.
Yeah.
Whereas look at someone like Liberty, and I think, what's she actually gained from the experience?
Not much at all.
Like, she was probably doing fine before with her like promotions on her page and stuff, so I just don't know really. She didn't find love. She was out quite soon. So I just don't really know. I
did call Mitch like my least favourite islander, just because I was kind of bored of the whole situation. He wasn't bringing much at the end, but I did tell him also that I was, you know, defending him a lot on this podcast, because I felt that Liberty was just taking everything so seriously. It was so early on,
Yeah.
and I think she was kind of really playing into her narrative of just, you know, I'm not going to be treated like this, and yet kept running back to him when he was so clear that he didn't fancy her. And I think she ruined that image of herself, which she was so strong in on the first series. So that's what I mean. You can go in there and sort of just ruin your own experience by sort of trying to manipulate the situation by doing what you did then that worked, and it hasn't worked the second time around, and then everyone gets bored of you.
But I think that's what Chris Taylor's done. I think people have really gone off him, because I think he was so funny the first time round and natural, and I think this time round he's so conscious of what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he was just, I can't get over how rude he was to Arabella.
I don't think anyone can. We're all shocked about that. Yeah. There was this different sides to him. I don't want to say too much negative, because I think he is the one that does make me laugh, like Anton, just these kind of things that he comes out with. He's so quick-witted, you know, he's got a brilliant sense of humour, but sometimes it does feel forced. You think, you know, when he's having those conversations where he'll just talk about a random animal.
Oh, yeah.
And like, that's not my kind of chat, but
Can
when
you
he does that,
imagine
he
if someone
knows.
chatted you up and said that to you, you'd be like,
But he knows that people will find that kind of funny, that you're, you know, 1 minute you're talking about something serious and then you just like ask that. So those kind of situations just feel a bit forced for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other funny spots that you've seen from last night's episode?
Well, the only thing I thought was quite funny / gross was when Molly like pulled Tom to talk about what she had seen during the awards show. He was like right by the camera, and his feet were like right in front of it, and his toes were crossed over like this right in front of it, and he was going to her, "I'm not lying, don't call me a liar," but his toes were crossed. And everyone on Twitter's like saying, "You're saying you're not lying, but you've got your fingers crossed."
You've got your toes crossed.
It was just so weird, and the camera kept going on his toes as well. So yeah, that really amused me. I like that.
That is just brilliant.
And it made me
love
think,
these spots. Like, it's just so funny.
And when you go on Twitter and people are just so funny about stuff, aren't they?
Yeah. I love going on there. I love watching it live. I know a lot of the time people do kind of catch up with it now and stream, but watching it live and seeing everyone at the same time, like, reacting to things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think Tom is actually lying, and I think his head could get turned as well.
He just seems to like go into it so seriously.
Yeah,
I'm like, just lighten up.
He just like went head first into that with Molly.
And I really don't like the way that the boys, this is new thing about, like, you know, I really like the girl. You know, they keep saying that. He was talking about Molly.
Yeah.
I really like the girl. It was like Jake saying, I don't hate the girl. It's like the way that they say the girl. I don't know. It's really, like, it was jarring. A lot of people also saying about, you know, Tom, Casey, Joe, how seriously are they taking it?
Yeah.
Because obviously they're best friends. They're now on this holiday. Is it just an excuse for a lad to get away?
Yeah, and I also don't think it's very fair to do that on the other islanders, because they've got the upper hand. That when it comes to, you know, when they sometimes say, oh, the other islanders have to pick a boy to go, they've got that like really strong group. Like, they can stick together and they'll always stand up for each other. And also, like, if you don't know anyone going into that villa, I know a lot of them probably do now, but you're kind of on the back foot. Whereas them going in, Joe going in and like having that amazing connection with two of his best mates really like gets him off to a flying start, I think, compared to other people who might not know others.
No, you're absolutely right. And again, that's a form of just them being able to sort of fix the vote, because they can effectively gang up on whoever they want out and to choose their friend.
And
I
think we have to remember that Tom and Casey during their year, they had a bit of a lad mentality, and they were like accused a few times of being a bit bullying with their behaviour. So
I really remember that, you know. I think I just like get lost in Tom's eyes, and I just forget about all of these negative things.
It was him with Will, and they were just all a little bit, they took jokes a little bit too far sometimes. And the public kind of went off them a bit. And that does happen if you've got like a group of lads together, you know, or a group of women who know each other from before. Like, that could happen, and then it's not fair on the other islanders maybe.
And sometimes, like talking about earlier about the difference between the girls and the boys and how they're treated and how they sort of interpret the situation. You've got, you know, the Tom, Casey and Joe, almost like a bit of a competitive nature of fighting for the same girl, and it's all a bit like they don't take it to heart like a girl perhaps would and be upset about it. They see it as a challenge, and it's the alpha male struggle perhaps of the three of them, who's going to come out with the best looking girl. You know, do you think I pick up on that kind of mentality? And
also it kind of objectifies the woman. I know that is basically the premise of the show, but when you've got three lads fight, you know, three friends, it makes it seem a bit not as it seems like they're doing it more as a game for themselves and not because they actually want to get to know Molly and respect Molly. Yeah.
I really hope that we do hear a little bit more about Joe and Molly's past situationship.
So do I.
And then, we'll see. We'll be reporting back tomorrow.
I can't even see them together, so that's quite a shock to me.
Yeah. I think him and Casey are such similar personalities and looks-wise that I imagine them going for the same girls all the time on the outside.
I don't know. I think poor Joe, when he was on the show before, he had that whole thing with Lucy, and he had, you know, a bit of a hard time because people thought he was gaslighting and stuff. So it will be interesting to see how he's changed and grown up since those days.
I know, I'm excited. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been lovely.
I love it. I just love talking about Love Island. If I could do this all day, every day, I would.
It is basically like our normal lives at the desk.
It is actually. That's what we talk about. Yeah. We don't talk about anything other than Love Island.
No.
Also, it's all consuming because there's so much drama. But we'll be back tomorrow and every weekday for Cracking On with the Sun.